Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video I want to go over some do's and don'ts when it comes to drawing portraits. If you would like to see the time-lapse of the drawing on the right, I do have a video of it in my channel, so please make sure to view that. I will also post a link in the description of this video. What I have noticed that a lot of beginner artists do is they go ahead and copy the facial features right away from a photo or from a picture that they're using without any guidance. So the first don't I want to talk about is don't start copying the facial features without any guidance. My preference is a grid. Do use a grid to help you draw the outline of the photo. The way this works is simply drawing squares on top of the reference photo as well as your sketchbook. The easiest grid to do is a 1-to-1, meaning the squares are the same size from the photo and your sketchpad. You can go smaller or larger by simply increasing the size of the squares in your sketchbook. The way this works is relatively obvious. You simply locate a feature on the grid in the photo and you replicate its location, its size, and the shape to the best of your ability. And you're a lot more likely to be accurate if you do that than to simply just kind of eye it by simply looking at that photo. The location will be much more accurate, the size will be much more accurate, as well as the shape. Now, another don't I want to talk about is don't put a lot of pressure on your pencil when making the outline. And the main reason for this is if you do make a mistake, it's extremely hard to erase that mistake. The lines will be visible when you erase. Another reason why you do not want to make dark lines is that when you start shading in, those outlines will be less likely to blend in with the shading. So the features will look cartoony. They will not look realistic. Now, what you want to do is you want to use a soft touch when making the outline, and you don't necessarily want to use a single line when drawing these features, almost as if you're tracing. You want to avoid doing that. What you want to do is you want to use a soft touch going back and forth gently to kind of get the feature down. And if, let's say, you do make a mistake, it's extremely easy to go back and erase it because those lines are very soft. The next don't is don't make any dark shading right away. So don't put a lot of pressure on your pencil when you are shading, similarly to the outline. The main reason for this is that if you go dark right away, it's going to be very tricky for you to go back and tone it down, especially if you get darker than you're supposed to. It's going to be very difficult to go back and erase it. And if you try and use a blending stump like I am trying to do now, it's going to be very hard to blend certain areas where you put a lot of pressure on those shading lines. So you want to be very gentle with the pencil. What you want to do is you want to use a soft touch, especially in the beginning. This is extremely easy to blend, not just with a blending stop, but even with a very soft watercolor brush. And what this will achieve is it will get a more natural look to the way you want that shading to be. And you can build on it. You can go over it again and again without smudging, or you're going to be less likely to smudge if that touch is very soft. Now, one way to avoid putting pressure on the pencil is by holding it near the end of the pencil, like I am showing in this video. That's a good way to kind of force yourself not to put pressure on it. So, don't rush the shading, build up on it. Over time, you want to put more and more darkness as you go along. Now, I am showing you this on purpose to show you what could happen when you go dark right away versus gradually. If you use a heavy hand, the final product is not going to look as refined. The idea is that over time, you're gonna build on those tones. Gradually, you're gonna go back to the same spot and add more and more tones, as I am showing to you in this split screen. Now, the whole idea when shading very softly is that you are not gonna get the tone you want right away. The goal here is to build on that shading over time. So you go back, you shade a little bit, you go to another feature, then you come back later, you shade a little bit more. And the final don't I wanted to point out is don't rush it. Take your time. Whenever you rush either the sketching part or the shading part, the results are not gonna be the same quality, as you can see from these two displays. The drawing on the left took me about 30 to 40 minutes, whereas the drawing on the right took me about 8 hours. So if you want to do a very nicely drawn portrait, take your time. You can come back to it later. You don't have to finish all the shading all at once. Gradually work on that shading, work on those outlines without rushing it. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, share it if you would like to, and feel free to leave any comments. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.